When 12 cartoonists were slaughtered in Paris by Islamic fundamentalists, world leaders rushed to Paris to show their solidarity. Well, so far, 60,000 civilians, 20,000 of whom are children, 237 UN aid workers, 240 odd journalists have been murdered by the IDF in Gaza, and world leaders turn the other way. Part, of course, me, Mickey D. Mickey D down south, you're a legend. So I think we have a duty now to realise that we have to be more careful in the news we are being fed. We can't just watch the news blindly or just take it all in without questioning it anymore. Right? Proof of this was during the week, 6 Palestinian journalists were murdered by the IDF during the week. They were in a tent outside a hospital, and the IDF bombed that tent. They said they were after one journalist who they claimed was in some way connected to Hamas. They have given no proof of this, and it was denied by that journalist the whole time he was operating.
His work is corroborated by international journalism institutions. His name is on the front pages of so many newspapers in the US, in the UK, Financial Times, New York Times, the Washington Post. Look up his name. He's not active as a journalist for Al Jazeera. He's a journalist for people in Gaza. He is well-known and a prominent journalist who has millions of followers on his social media platforms. He's an icon for Gazan people. He has been reporting what's happening in Gaza since the beginning of the war. He's a young journalist who doesn't know anything but to go on air and tell the story of the people.
But that was the premise, and they didn't care who they killed in that tent along with them, right? So on the day that they were slaughtered, what did BBC News lead its bulletin with? Can you guess? Nicola Sturgeon's new book. That's what led to BBC News. Indeed, we had another glimpse into just how biased the BBC is with regard to reporting the genocide in Gaza. Watch this report for me. Just watch this closely.
As has been the issue throughout the war, there's the question of proportionality. Is it justified to kill 5 journalists when you are only targeting 1?
It was the Israelis who banned journalists from Gaza when they started this conflict and started this invasion. Why? Simple. They don't want you to see their war crimes. They don't want the world to know what they are doing, that they have already leveled. 90% of the buildings in Gaza are dust. I said last week they wouldn't allow journalists on planes to point their cameras down onto Gaza. That's what they are involved in. They are involved in treating the world's journalists like mushrooms, keeping them in the dark and feeding them shite. So, the brave local Palestinian journalists from Al Jazeera News, particularly, who have stepped in to that void and who bravely report what's actually going on the ground, the IDF are now systemically slaughtering them 1 by 1 or 6 by 6. They've killed hundreds of them. And all the while the IDF murder machine is in full throttle, a quizzling Western media is willing to excuse and or ignore what is happening in front of their eyes. A very late convert to the reality of what is happening in Gaza was Piers Morgan. But we have to give him credit that at least he's woken up and is now giving a voice to the reality of that conflict.
If we go through one by one, I'm not sure if we have enough time to go through simply the 270 plus journalists that have been killed in the past 2 years alone. But I want to highlight just a few of those that have been killed over the past 100 years, either by Israel, the Israeli military, or by Zionist terrorist organizations, Zionist terrorist organizations. Here I'm borrowing the phrase used by the British government and the BBC back in the early 20th century, when there was some sort of credibility amongst establishment media and the British political system. Let's go as far back as 1924, when at the time there was an anti-Zionist Jewish journalist who was Dutch by the name of Jacob Israel de Haan, who was killed by the Haganah, which was one of the key groups that actually formed the Israeli military afterwards, because he wrote anti-Zionist articles in 1924. Let's go into this century when we're looking at Raffaele Cirello, who was an Italian photographer for Corriere della Sera, who was killed, murdered in Ramallah in 2002. Or let's look at Shireen Abu Akleh, an American Christian who was sniped by the Israeli military the day they wanted to go in and commit more crimes in Jenin, in the West Bank. And not only did they not rest at murdering her on camera, they decided to attack her funeral in front of the world because of the impunity that Israel has. Let's look at the beginning of this genocide in 2023, when they killed Reuters journalists on the border with Lebanon. And they killed Isam there and blew off the legs of Christina Abiasi. There is a string of perpetual attempts by the Israeli military to murder anybody who wants to show the world the truth of what Zionism is and what Israel does. So the fact that we are here today in 2025 discussing or giving any sort of credence to serial killers, serial liars, as if what they say bears any weight whatsoever, is actually reflective, as a shame, more onto us as media personalities and as channels and as newspapers, because you wouldn't be sitting down with a serial killer or a serial rapist and giving them any sort of credence or credibility to what they're saying. You would see that long litany and long list of their crimes and understand that whatever they say means nothing.